Hello everyone, and welcome to another cloudy little tutorial. What we're making today is this adorable miniature jack-o'-lantern or just a plain old pumpkin, depending on what you want to make. So let's jump right in. What we're going to need today is some orange yarn in a worsted weight, some green yarn in a worsted weight, or brown works too. You're going to want a 4.5mm crochet hook, a yarn needle, and something to clip your yarn. And of course, you can't forget, we're going to need some fluff too. So I'm just starting with a chain of 6. You're going to want to chain a little looser than normal here because we're going to be working into the back loop, and that just makes it just fit better and a little bit easier to get in there. So you see here I chained 6. Now we're going to turn it over. We're going to work in the back loop of the chain only. And we're just going to do 5 half double crochets across. Starting in the second chain from the hook. So yeah, just do 5 half double crochets across. Now the reason that I like to work into the back loop of my starting chain is it's going to give us a nice finished edge on the bottom side. And it's going to make it a whole lot easier to sew it up once we're done. Well, we'll be slip stitching it, but it's just going to make it nice, smooth, easy. So now that we finished our first row, we're going to chain up 1, and we're going to do 5 half double crochets across, working into the back loop only. So you see we're going under the back loop, not both loops like you normally would work a stitch, just the back loop. So we're just going to do 5 half double crochets all the way across. So that's pretty much all we're doing. Every row we're going to chain 1 to step up our round. And then we're going to work 5 half double crochets across, just 1 in each stitch. And we're going to do that for a total of 7 rows. I'm just speeding through this right here. But once we have our 7 rows of 5 half double crochets across, we're going to just fold it over and we're going to slip stitch across. And you won't even be able to see this seam. So we're working in the back loop of both sides. So we just folded it in half. We're just going into what was our starting chain. And just use the back loop of each stitch and just slip stitch across. That simple. And once it's done, you won't even be able to tell that there's a seam. So now we're going to tie off, but leave enough yarn to sew the bottom closed. So just leave enough on your tail for sewing. And it's super easy to sew up. We're just going to go in through the outside, loop it around, go in again. Make sure to leave enough space so that it can pull together. You don't want the stitches too tight together. We're not going through both ends here, just the one side. Just loop it around and then pull it tight when you're done. It just closes right up. I like to go back and forth a couple times just to make sure it's nice and locked in. And that's all there is to it. Then we're going to put our needle up through the center there. Get a little fluff. Stuff it. You want it medium firm. You don't want to overstuff it to the point of the stitches separating, but you want it enough to be pretty firm. So we just moved our yarn up to the top, and we're just going to sew the top up the same exact way. Just go around there, and then you're going to pull it tight, and it'll just close it right up. Do a couple back and forth to make sure it stays, just for security. what I'm going to do here is, if you like the shape as is, you can just leave it and skip this step. But I like to just put my working yarn down through the center there and just give it a nice pull. And that gives a nice little indent at the top there where the stem goes. We're going to keep it tight and then just knot it at the bottom. And that's going to hold it in place. So I like to just give it a double knot. You're not really going to see this, but it's on the bottom anyways. And then just run it through a couple times. This is my favorite way to tie in loose ends on anything plush. You just go back and forth. You go in between the stitches, so you're not catching outside the stitches. The yarn is staying inside. You're going to go in the same hole you came out of. And just run it through a few times, and that makes it really secure. Okay, here we are making the stem. All we're going to do is just do a chain of 4. So we're just going to chain a little bit looser than you normally would because we're going to work in the back loop again. Not super loose, just, not super tight. And then we are going to do 3 slip stitch in the back loop of this chain. So just slip stitch down, starting in the second chain from the hook, of course. We're going to tie off, leaving enough yarn to sew it on. Now, I like to use the shorter end, or shorter tail here, to just place it on the pumpkin. So I just run it through where I want it to be, and then that just kind of holds it there and makes it a little bit easier to sew on. And then you just sew it on. Here, I mean, you can really sew it on however you want, but I just do a little under, back into the stem, under, back into the stem. And then when I'm done sewing it on, you don't need to knot it or anything. You can knot it to the stem where it's green if you want. I never have a problem when I do it this way. So I'm just going to go back and forth through the center stuffed part. You're going to want to make sure you go in the same hole you came out of so that the green doesn't show on the outside. But just go back and forth. It's going to get tangled up nice and tight on the polyfill you have in there, and it won't come loose. So just pull tight, clip, and there we have it. Very secure. We have our little pumpkin here. Now, you can stop here. If you want to keep just a pumpkin, have a tiny little pumpkin. But if you want a jack-o'-lantern, I'll show you how to do that too. Okay, now to turn this into a jack-o'-lantern, you just want to cut out your little face in black felt. I just went with a classic jack-o'-lantern face of 2 little triangles for the eyes, a smaller triangle for the nose, and a little jig-jag mouth. But you can do yours however you want. You can see the felt will kind of just stick in place. So I like to just place it on there, get an idea of where I want it to go before I glue it. I'm using tacky glue. That's just the glue I have on hand. You can use any fabric glue, really. Even hot glue would work. Just get something that's going to dry clear, because as you can see with parts this tiny, it's a little bit messy. And just stick them on. Again, I mean, I'm getting glue all over my fingers. Maybe it's a good idea to wear gloves or maybe tweezers to put this on to make it a little bit easier. This is just how I do it. I personally don't care if I get a little glue on my fingers, but do it whatever's easiest for you. And there we have it. Here is our completed little jack-o'-lantern. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you like the video. Leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and follow if you want more.